Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. This is World Today. I'm Sahih. To begin our bulletin, here's a quick look at the stories we are following. Malaysia will avoid any hasty decisions following the US Supreme Court ruling against President Donald Trump's tariffs. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim said the government needs sufficient time to evaluate the impact to avoid affecting Malaysia-US bilateral trade worth RM367.5 billion. President Donald Trump has threatened steeper tariffs on countries that play games following a Supreme Court ruling that struck down his global trade duties. The court ruled Trump exceeded his authority in imposing the tariff under emergency powers. US Customs says it will stop collecting the block tariff from Tuesday, though the administration plans to introduce new 10% import duties. Iran has vowed a ferocious retaliation against any US attack after President Donald Trump warned he could order strikes if no nuclear deal is reached. Tehran said even a limited strike would be considered an act of aggression and could spark wider regional conflict. The exchange comes ahead of a renewed indirect talks in Geneva on Iran's nuclear program. At least 74 people, including 25 National Guard officers, have been killed in Mexico following a security operation that left cartel leader Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, known as El Mencho, dead. The operation triggered violent reprisals, with suspected cartel members burning vehicles, blocking highways and attacking banks and petrol stations. Ministry of Foreign Affairs says no Malaysians have been affected by the unrest in several Mexican states. Wisma Putra is monitoring the situation and advises Malaysians in Mexico to remain vigilant and follow local authorities' instructions. Citizens are also urged to register with e-consular for assistance. Police attend to the scene of a bomb attack at a train station in Moscow which killed one police officer and wounded two others. According to a statement from Russian Interior Ministry, a man approached traffic police officers sitting in their patrol vehicle at Sayalovsky Railway Station Square and detonated an explosive device early Tuesday. The attacker died at the scene. Nearly 20 countries have condemned Israel's latest move in the occupied West Bank, calling them steps towards annexation. In a joint statement, they said the measures threaten Palestinian statehood and the two-state solution. Signatories include Saudi Arabia, Egypt, France and Spain. More than 500,000 Israelis live in West Bank settlements, which are considered illegal under international law. Professional men's single shuttler Lee Zijia will represent Malaysia at the Thomas Cup 2026. Team LZJ confirmed he has reached an agreement with the Badminton Association of Malaysia to join the national squad and will waive his image rights fee as a sign of commitment. The tournament will be held in Horsens, Denmark from 24th April to 3rd May. Benjamin Sesko's squad off the bench as Manchester United beat Everton 1-0 in the Premier League. His second-half strike sealed United's rise to 4th and extended Michael Carrick's unbeaten run in charge. Everton are now 7 home games without a win. UEFA has provisionally suspended Gianluca Prestiani for one match of an alleged racist comment directed at Vinicius Jr. during Benfica's Champions League tie against Real Madrid. He will miss the return leg in Madrid with Real leading 1-0. Prestiani denies the allegation while UEFA has launched an investigation. And that's today's top news in a quick snapshot. Up next, the complete World Today Bulletin. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Malaysia will avoid any hasty decision that could harm its trade interests following the US Supreme Court ruling against President Donald Trump's tariff. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim said that new global tariff measures must be closely monitored and carefully addressed to safeguard Malaysia's economic interests.
Kita juga mengambil kira apa implikasi dan kesan seperti mana yang dibangkitkan oleh yang berhormat. Tapi seperti mana kita tahu, perintah eksekutif. Ini kesan sementara bagi Malaysia itu baik kerana dia turun. Maknanya dia tinggal 15% daripada 19 turun menjadi tinggal 15% daripada 19 ini peringkat awal. Tapi ini berkuasa hanya 150 hari. Jadi apakah kita tunggu sehingga selesai? Tapi kita senantiasa pantau. Kita hanya mungkin pantau, tetapi kita tidak mahu dalam keadaan sekarang ambil keputusan yang gopoh.
Prime Minister said the government needs sufficient time to assess the impact of the US Supreme Court's ruling on tariffs to avoid harming Malaysia-United States bilateral trade worth 367.5 billion ringgit. Meanwhile, Trump warned that those countries that intend to exploit the US Supreme Court's ruling on tariff will face much higher levies. Trump said on the social media platform that any country that wants to play games will be met with a much higher tariff and worse. The High Court struck down Trump's global tariff last Friday, ruling that he had exceeded his authority in tapping emergency economic powers to impose them. Trump called the decision a disgrace, saying he had a backup plan and promising to maintain all tariffs related to national security. Trump also said earlier on Monday that the Supreme Court unwittingly gave him more powers on tariff than he had before its ruling. Trump added that he does not need to circle back to the US Congress for approval to impose import tariffs. In a related development, Washington and Japan agreed to stick to last year's trade deal despite the Supreme Court ruling. Tokyo and Washington struck a trade deal last year that cut threatened US tariff of 25% to 15% on Japanese imports in exchange for $550 billion worth of investments. In a statement, the Japanese Trade Minister Rosie Akazawa has also requested that Japan receive treatment under the new US tariff regime as favorable as the agreement reached between the two countries last year. Earlier this month, the two countries agreed to accelerate talks on the first batch of investments under the deal. Trump invited Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi to visit Washington next month. Meanwhile, European Union lawmakers put the bloc's trade deal with the United States on hold following the Supreme Court ruling. Iran is serious about pursuing a diplomatic path to resolve the nuclear issue and end US sanctions, but its armed forces will remain vigilant. Speaking at a weekly press conference in Tehran, Foreign Ministry spokesman Ismail Baghi denied rumors that a temporary nuclear deal had been reached in direct talks between Iran and the United States. He stressed that any negotiation aimed at forcing one side unilaterally accept the other's demand is bound to fail. Baghi warned that any attack by the United States against Iran, regardless of its scope and scale, will be considered an act of aggression and will have consequences.
ایران بدون توجه به این تهدیدات متمرکز هست بر پیشبرد منافع و حقوق ملی مردم ایران و هرگاه که احساس بکنیم که طرف مقابل در نظر داره که از این روند برای فریبکاری و نیرنگ استفاده بکنه قطعاً مواضع مناسب رو اتخاذ خواهیم کرد. ما حتما نمیتونیم تجربه های قبلی رو دست کم بگیریم یا فراموش بکنیم و اون این که ما همزمان که در اتاق مذاکره هستیم، همزمان که دیپلمات‌های ما مشغول گفتگو با طرف‌های مقابل هستند، حتما در اون زمان‌ها اتفاقاً نیروهای نظامی ما هوشیارتر.
Delegations from Iran and the United States held 2 rounds of indirect nuclear negotiations in Muscat and Geneva earlier this month. A new round of talks is expected in Geneva on Thursday. The renewed diplomatic process comes amid heightened tensions between Iran and the United States and a US military buildup in the Middle East. Meantime, the US State Department on Monday ordered non-emergency personnel to evacuate the US Embassy in Beirut, Lebanon, amid heightened tensions in the Middle East. A senior State Department official said that this is a temporary measure intended to ensure the safety of personnel while maintaining the ability to operate and assist U.S. citizens. Around 40 embassy personnel left through Beirut's international airport on Monday. The order applies to non-emergency employees and their family members, but the embassy will remain open. A new round of US-Iran talks is scheduled for Thursday in Geneva, with discussions expected to focus on Iran's nuclear program, including uranium enrichment levels and sanctions relief. However, the previous two rounds of indirect talks made little visible progress. Nearly 20 countries have condemned Israel's latest actions in the occupied West Bank, calling them attempts at de facto annexation. In a joint statement, the countries said moves to register land as state property and allow Israelis to purchase land directly undermine Palestinian statehood and this two-state solution. Signatories include Saudi Arabia, Egypt, France and Spain, as well as Indonesia, Brazil and Turkey, among others. It was also endorsed by Secretaries General League of Arab States and the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, as well as the Palestinian Authority. More than 500,000 Israelis live in West Bank settlements, which are considered illegal under international law. At least 74 people have died in Mexico, including 25 National Guard officers, in the operation that killed cartel boss El Mencho and the subsequent violence. This comes after soldiers attempted to arrest the drug boss Nemesio Osiguera Cervantes, known as El Mencho, in the western state of Jalisco. El Mencho was captured after forces tracked down a romantic partner he was meeting. The drug lord was seriously injured in a firefight between his bodyguards and the military commanders deployed to capture him, and he died while the military was transporting him to Mexico City. A prison guard, a member of State Prosecutor's Office, and 30 suspected members of Osiguera's criminal organization were also killed. News of his death triggered spasm of violence, with cartel members blocking roads in 20 states and torching vehicles and businesses. He was a founding member of Jalisco New Generation Cartel CJNG, which was formed in 2009 and has grown into one of Mexico's most violent crime organizations. The group maintained a vast network of hitmen, even making its own weapons, and expanded into several Mexican states. On a related matter, the Foreign Ministry confirmed that no Malaysian nationals have been affected by the unrest in several states across Mexico following a recent security operation by local authorities. Wisma Putra said it is closely monitoring the wave of violence occurring in several states in the country, including Jalisco, Colima, Nayarit, and Tamaulipas, through the Embassy of Malaysia in Mexico City. Malaysians residing in or travelling to Mexico are advised to remain vigilant, avoid public gatherings, and strictly follow the safety instructions issued by local authorities. The ministry also strongly encouraged Malaysians to register their presence by e-consular to facilitate timely communication and assistance. Wisma Putra said it will continue to monitor developments closely and provide updates as necessary. Still ahead, British national among 19 killed in Nepal bus crash.
Simptom-simptom microsleep. Tersengguk-sengguk, mata terkebil-kebil, kelopak mata semakin tertutup atau kuyu. Lupa kejadian di waktu-waktu terakhir.
A bus in Nepal slid off a mountain road and fell into an icy river, killing at least 19 people, including a British tourist. The bus en route from the tourist city of Pokhara to the capital city Kathmandu fell more than 200 meters into the Trishuli River in the early hours of Monday morning. A senior local police officer said out of 44, in total 19 people died and 25 are undergoing treatment. A New Zealander and a Chinese national were among the 25 injured. The injured are being treated at hospitals in Kathmandu. In July 2024, two buses with more than 50 people on board were swept off the highway into the same river after a landslide. Road accidents are common in mostly mountainous Nepal, where the conditions of roads are poor. Hundreds die in road crashes in Nepal annually. In Russia, one police officer was killed and two others wounded after a man detonated an explosive device beside a patrol car in central Moscow. Russia's Interior Ministry said the blast happened shortly after midnight near Sailovsky railway station. The attacker also died at the scene. Authorities have opened a criminal investigation but have not disclosed a motive. The incident follows a series of attacks targeting Russian security personnel in recent months. The youngest son of Zimbabwe's former leader Robert Mugabe appeared in a South African court charged with attempted murder after a gardener was shot and injured at the mansion in Johannesburg where he was staying. Bellarmine Mugabe was also charged with illegal possession of a firearm. Bellarmine Mugabe was not asked to enter a plea, and the case against him and another man was postponed until 3rd March for police to conduct further inquiries. Bellarmine will remain in custody until his next court appearance. He and the co-accused, Tobias Tamirepi Mugabe, also face a charge of defeating the ends of justice, as police are yet to find the gun that is meant to have been used to shoot the gardener. The gardener was still in hospital on Monday after the shooting incident on Thursday. Landslides and flooding struck Peru's Ica and Arequipa regions, leaving highways blocked, vehicles stranded, and communities isolated as heavy rainfall continued across the country. Video showed an overturned cargo truck in Ica and vehicles attempting to navigate flooded roads while police assisted stranded passengers crossing on foot.
Para solucionar esto necesitamos maquinaria. ¿Por qué? Porque ahorita así como está lleno de escombros. Si viene una lluvia más, un huaico más como ayer, eso se va a rebasar y las cosas se van a volver peor. Se está desprendiendo todavía. Toda la noche ha caído tierra. Entonces, ahorita lo que pedimos es una acción inmediata.
Regional Governor requested the national government declare a state of emergency and send heavy machinery from the Transportation, Agriculture and Housing Ministries to accelerate recovery efforts. According to Peru's Council of Ministers, more than 700 districts nationwide have been declared in emergency status, representing nearly half all districts. Weather forecasts predict continued moderate to heavy rainfall across coastal and Andean regions. A powerful winter storm disrupted travel across New York City, leaving airports, streets and transit hubs unusually quiet. At LaGuardia Airport in Queens, departure boards showed rows of cancelled flights as travel ground to a halt. Inside the terminal, the normally busy passenger pickup area was empty. Despite the storm, trains continued to run, pulling in and out of stations before disappearing into the storm and underground. Across the city, snow piled up on parked cars as residents worked to clear sidewalks with snow blowers and shovels. In Times Square, heavy snowfall muted the city's busiest crossroads with only a handful of people moving through the snow-filled streets. New York City, the nation's largest school district, ordered all public school buildings closed for a traditional snow day with no remote instruction and all after-school programs cancelled. New York Governor said she had activated 100 National Guard members to assist in Long Island, New York City and the lower Hudson Valley areas expected to bear the brunt of the heavy snow and coastal winds. Animal welfare group Four Paws has begun relocating two bears and a tigress from the former Luján Zoo in Argentina, citing urgent welfare concerns. The bears will be transferred to a sanctuary in Bulgaria, while the tigress is headed to a big cats rescue center in the Netherlands.
For the bears, it was very, very urgent. It was during already the initial assessment that we saw that the living conditions are substandard. So Gordo only had like a 4 to 4 meter enclosures available, like locked in a cage, no outdoor access. And as you can see, he's a very, very big bear with 350 kilograms, one of the heaviest bears that Fourpaws has ever transported. With Florencia, we are also very concerned about her mental health and well-being, so for them it's very important to receive a species-appropriate care, which they will receive in Belica Bear Sanctuary in Bulgaria.
Flora, the tigress, meanwhile, is set to be transported to Felida, a big cat sanctuary in the Netherlands.
She was within the first ones being treated and examined because of her severely ingrown nails. That's something that our veterinarians have never seen before, and she really needs specialized care, medical monitoring and further surgeries and also dental treatment.
The Lujan Zoo near Buenos Aires was shut down in 2020 over poor living conditions. The move follows an agreement between Fourpaws and the Argentine government to improve animal welfare standards. Next up in sports, Zija accepts Thomas Cup call without setting up any terms. Professional men's single shuttler Lee Zija will represent Malaysia at the Thomas Cup 2026. In a statement today, Team LZJ confirmed that Zija has reached an agreement with the Badminton Association of Malaysia to be part of the national squad. The world-class shuttler has also agreed to waive his image rights fee for the tournament, reflecting his commitment and a dedication to the country. Zija expressed appreciation to BAM President Tengku Datuk Sri Zafrul Tengku Abdul Aziz and Head of the Performance Committee Datuk Sri Lee Chong Wei for their trust and confidence in him. Team LZJ said the agreement signals a new chapter in the relationship between Zija and BAM, moving forward in the best interests of Malaysian badminton. The Thomas Cup 2026 will be held in Horsens, Denmark from 24th April to 3rd of May. And that wraps up World Today. Tune in to Malaysia Tonight, coming at 8:30 p.m. on TV1 and Saluran Berita RTM. I'm Sahih Samsudin. Salam Malaysia Madani, and thank you for your company.